Most leadership advice focuses on what to do, but what about how you're wired to do it? Welcome to the Empowered Half Hour. I'm Becca Powers, a nervous system leadership expert and best-selling author. Here we talk about life and leadership, pressure and performance through the lens of the, more specifically your, nervous system, because how regulated you are shapes how well you lead. Each conversation is designed to find your blueprint to help you lead with more steadiness, clarity, and impact without burning yourself or your people out. It's my intention to help you come back home to yourself and to savor moments that you might be rushing through. And that starts right now. If you're able to, close your eyes, put your left hand on your heart and your right hand on your gut. Now take a deep breath in through your nose for a count of 4. Hold for 2. Now exhale powerfully through your mouth for a count of 6. There you are. Now put a smile on that face. It's officially tea time. Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Half Hour, and I'm bringing you a guest that has been on my calendar for months, and somehow we keep getting rescheduled, but here she is today, and I think the timing is perfect. You got to trust the divine timing of things sometimes, but I'd like to introduce you guys to today's guest, Christina Woods. She is a hypnotherapist, coach, and healer of many things. I love promoting the and the expansion of it, and she is perfect for the conversations we like to have. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you, Becca. I'm really excited to be here. Let's do it.
I know. So, gosh, I know this conversation is going to be great just from the little bit of pre-talk that we got to do, but let's get into your background. So today you're a hypnotherapist, healer with quite a few certs under it, and a coach with a couple of certs under it.
Yep.
And then you also had a background as a corporate exec. So I just want to hear a little bit about your story. Like, how did you go from corporate exec to where you are today? And was there something that happened that made you make the pivot?
Yeah, it's not a journey I expected. I had a 30-year thriving career in corporate. I climbed the ladder pretty quickly, and it was my dream. It was what everybody thinks you're supposed to want, and I had it. I was doing really, really well. I was flying all over the country, huge team, and all of a sudden, my marriage fell apart, my health fell apart. No one knew it. Everything looked perfectly fine on the outside. The bank account was good. The clothes were great. The miles on the credit cards, as far as I could travel anywhere. And Hilton, practically knew my first name. And so everything on the outside was perfect. And this is a very familiar story, I know. But everything on the inside was so not good. And this is also not a glamorous story, but I was picking weeds, and it's a spiritual story. I was picking weeds and I heard a voice that said, "When are you going to stop making everybody else happy and do something that makes you happy?"
Goosebumps
And
head to toe.
yeah. And I mean, I was literally in my pajamas. It was hot and sweaty. The kids hadn't picked up the dog poop. I mean, it's not a glamorous moment, but it was not even my intuition. It was an outside voice, and it stopped me in my tracks. And in that moment, I knew my marriage after 25 years was done. It had been failing. I knew I had to do something about that. I knew how to choose me. I knew I wouldn't work in corporate anymore. I knew it was just something that it wasn't fulfilling, but it was more than that. And I didn't know what that even looked like. And so I had decided at that point to dive into figuring out why I did some of the sabotaging things I knew that I did that I never really wanted to look at. So, I had a spiritual sort of practice. I thought that I did. I went to some retreats. I did the yoga stuff. I had some self-help books, but I still was afraid to go deep because I didn't want to know some of those things. So I didn't even probably know the word spiritual bypassing back then. I just, I dabbled in some things, but don't make me go talk to a therapist back then or any of that stuff. But I kind of knew deep down, like, you better go find out, why do you max out your credit cards and then pay them off? Why do you keep doing the yo-yo
Ooh,
thing?
yes, those behaviors. Mhm.
Yeah, why do you do that thing with your husband all the time and then blame him? Why do you say yes to your bosses when you're exhausted and you know they're taking advantage? Why do you act like you're happy when you're not? Why do everybody in your family think everything's perfect when your marriage is falling apart? Why do you do all these things? Why do you sabotage certain things? So I said, okay, dive in and go look, girl. And that's how I found hypnotherapy. And I very, very quickly found out things about myself my whole life I thought were true, and they weren't even true. They were an identity about myself that I realized that's not even true. I thought it was, maybe just an impatient mom or an impatient wife, or I just was, snappy or just a perfectionist. But I wasn't a perfectionist. I was hyper vigilant in survival mode, and I had just called it overachiever.
Isn't it wild how I call them the overs, but how our overs can look like super performance and like we
Yeah.
have it all together. But meanwhile, we're over functioning, over rescuing, over protecting, like overextending. Like you could put, I always just, that's why I
Yeah,
call it the overs, but it's like exhausting. And
it's
then one
exhausting.
day you're pulling weeds in your pajamas and you have a voice tell you, when is this enough?
Right, and I even in that moment, I remember saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm being called out by something much bigger than me that literally
Like,
has
damn it. How many signs have I ignored?
I have to have this, spiritual awakening to say, "Girl, get it together." So, that in that moment, it was still a slow but that was really the shift for me, the wake up call, and I slowly decided at that point to pull myself from the life and my identity. And that's a big deal because when your identity is your career, your marriage, this persona, I'm an overachiever. That is literally, I was so successful in my career and what I did and the money I earned and this life to not be that or do that. I literally didn't know how to do anything else.
There's so many things and so many directions that I wanna take this conversation, but I'm just gonna shoot real. Like, I
Mhm.
am in the middle of, like, burning my current identity and going into my next. And I've been building my personal brand along with my executive sales career for the last 7 years and got 2 books and a podcast, obviously we're on that, and all
Yeah.
sorts of things, and July 13th is my last day. Like,
Wow.
excited to do it, but, like, I've had this voice over and over and again too, but recently, a couple months ago, that voice was just like I'm, like, laying down in Savasana, and I heard the voice in my head, and she came to me. The same voice was with me October 2016, so I heard her before, and my whole
Yeah.
life changed then, but she was like, "When are you gonna bet on yourself?"
I know that voice. You can't ignore it.
You can't. That's what I was like, "Damn it," like, in a good way, but also I'm like, I have work to do because all the
Yes.
we have to start answering all those questions. So let's kind of go back to that and unpack that for the audience a little bit. Like if the audience is listening to this and they're identifying with your story and they're identifying with mine, like maybe I am in need of like an identity transfer because I'm no longer in alignment with the old, even if it looks good from the outside, I'm miserable on the inside. And where would someone start to reflect? And you can do it through your lens of work, answer the question through your lens of work, but I'd love to hear your answer on that.
Yeah, I think it requires us to look at our life, look at our patterns without judgment and just get curious and find someone that we trust or even if it's a journal book, and just start to reflect and say even if it's our feelings like I do a lot of journaling, it's a big one, but even if it's to say I Christina feel, I Becca feel, and look at our feelings and reflect without judgment, and often even say just like when, because we will see patterns, and to look at those patterns with curiosity and compassion and to look at them through a different lens, because it isn't until we are willing to look at them differently can we shift and say, okay, for many, many years, we identify as the overachiever. Well, I do that because I want to overachieve. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to be good. Only until I could look at it differently could I say, well, actually, I do that because I want to be accepted. I want to feel safe. I want to this, I that. But for 50 years, I never thought that. Not until I was able to see it differently and look back and say, when did I first feel like I needed to be perfect? Well, gosh, I was 4. And why did I need to feel like I was perfect? I needed to hide some secrets at home, and I didn't want people to know our secrets. And if I acted like a good girl, then no one would ask. Boy, drop the mic. Okay,
Mhm.
then if everyone thought everything was perfect, they wouldn't ask any questions. I just kept building that
Also, as a
persona.
way to protect yourself too.
Yeah, so if we just start getting curious, it's all built for a very good reason, but, our world rewards things that are our deck of cards, and we need to really just look at, like, wait a second, just like when, let's get really curious. So I think it's just a matter of allowing ourselves to get curious and getting to the root. And in what I do with hypnotherapy, but there's many other methods, it's let's allow ourselves to get to the root and explore that. And it doesn't mean anything traumatic or horrible happened, but as humans, we all have a root. And at that root, we build upon that root. And let me tell you something, the root is not necessarily the truth, it's the meaning you've attached to something. And
That's
let's
so
just
great.
bless that meaning because it was there for a reason, but it doesn't mean that that can't shift and we can give it another meaning and we can go from there.
Yeah, I love that you're talking about root too, because I'll just use my example of the overs. So when I heard my voice for the first time, I had an emotional collapse on the bathroom floor from doing all the overs, but my overs then looked like overachieving, overcommitted. I was the senior leader in an organization. I was on a board. I had 4 kids in middle school. Like, I mean, I can go
Wow.
like full plate, Thanksgiving plate, and I did all the things. And everything looked great on the outside, but on the inside, I could barely recognize myself. And then one day, boom, emotional collapse on the bathroom floor. My voice said, Becca, you're the CEO of your life. You're a lot more powerful than you think you are.
Mm,
I still get the goosebumps. I'm like,
I
damn.
bet. Yes.
I was like, yeah. I'm like, I didn't have strength to stand before that, but after that, I was able to pull myself off the floor. I didn't know how I was going to do the next day, but I did it differently than I was doing. And
As
it
the
just,
CEO, yeah, you're making decisions and
yeah, life changed. And then this time, my overs, because I was, I've done so much personal growth and I've worked with myself. I've worked with counselors and practitioners and healers and all sorts of things because I go all in once I figure something out. I'm like,
yeah.
let's get to the root. Let's get to the root.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's keep going
I'm
with
not
it.
scared. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. But it's funny. And like what I would like to talk about too is like how things morph. And the reason I say that is because like this conversation is just bringing awareness of how my overs almost 10 years later morphed into other overs. So now
Yes.
I'm in a more senior leadership role. I'm also running my own company. I've got a personal brand. I've got all these things. And now my overs are more like instead of overachieving, it's more like overfunctioning, over-rescuing, overprotecting, and so it's really
Yep.
from the leader, right? That leader piece of me, and I had to get super honest with myself too. I'm like, "What okay, when I'm doing this, what's happening? I'm feeling like I'm helping, and that helping is a dopamine hit, and I feel good, but I'm bypassing the fact that it has a cost on the back end. Why
Yes.
am I doing that?" And so
Yes.
that's what I was like, "Oh, I'm picking up what you're putting down, so we can go chew on that conversation if you
I
wanna."
love that. I just had this conversation this morning with a spiritual sister. Do our own little mastermind together, our little soul sister. And I said, "Do you ever feel like you're working on the same thing, but you know it's so much deeper? Here we go again." But we're evolving so much. It's not the same thing. It's a different level. Yet, we always beat ourselves up. Why am I still working on this? Where it's different, and that's a good example because I I can relate to that so much. So anyone that feels like I can't get over it, you're at a different level. You're at a different phase. You're at a different frequency or whatever you want to call it. You're on a different part of the journey. But I've been there too, where I feel like you can do it even as you're helping clients or I'm in it too much or I'm investing too much or we're at a different phase in it. And we have to step back and say, where have I lost my identity, or who am I now, or what is the next part of me? What's my next evolution? So where am I being true to myself, and what is my voice, and where have I lost my voice? Where am I getting external validation instead of internal validation?
Ooh, that's a
It's
really
just the
good.
compass, that inner compass. We all can lose sight of it, and it all often will come back to that sense of safety and just needing to tune in. And there's so many places that we tune into outside, and we need to feel safe, and we need to feel, and we do it in different ways. And so, just kind of taking the temperature off and like, wait, where have I gotten off course? And it doesn't mean we're not, you know, we weren't on course doing the right thing for a long time, but we feel when it's a little bit off.
Yes, we do. And then we normally like, just to piggyback off you, what I've noticed too within me and my clients is like once we've done a good reset and it's been a couple years and we start to feel that things are off again, we're like, we go bypassing again because we're like, oh no, I already cleaned that up. Like
Exactly.
you're like, oh, that's probably not my intuition. That's like, that's just my nerves or my anxiety or something. So
Yes.
I'm totally picking up what you're putting down. And I would love to turn it back into a question like, why do we do that?
Yeah. Well,
Why?
we judge ourselves, and also, we have this culture of that, I we have a culture of a check the box syndrome. I've checked that box. Move on, honey. Move on to the next. In fact, one of the kind of funny things that I get with the clients, and you might too, is I've already worked on that. I don't want to work on that. I've already achieved these things. I only want to achieve these things. And even with hypnotherapy, I'll have clients say, can you give me the strategy, or can you do hypnosis to help me find my purpose in life? As if, we're going to go dig and find the golden nugget of the purpose. And exactly, like, I'd probably have, many beautiful cars and diamonds or something if that were the case. It's like, no, this is an inner thing that we have to do here. There's not a strategy for everything. And we have kind of a strategy mentality that there's a strategy behind everything. And the strategy is trusting and moving back. It's not always more effort. It's literally finding less resistance. And instead of more effort, what is the less resistance? The less resistance is always turning inward. And that is means that we have to really trust ourselves. And to trust ourselves means that we have to not seek outside validation and answers, and really tune into what we need, which means that means saying no to some people, or tuning into making decisions that might mean I don't want to have to, I might disappoint the people around me, or I might literally need to change almost everything in my life and become a different person than who I am right now. And I'm really scared because I don't know what that might look like.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And, if someone's in one of those loops where you'd given some advice of kind of like where to start, but how could they leverage something like hypnotherapy to get to the root or to, maybe break the cycle or evolve from the cycle? I'd really be really interested to hear that because I mentioned to you, I haven't had many hypnotherapists on the show. So,
Yeah. Hypnotherapy and the concept is so easy and simple, and it's a really natural process. So, we are always just getting to the root of the belief, and we all have a subconscious and a conscious mind. And so with any kind of pattern, what we're doing is just creating a new neural pathway in our mind, a new way to believe. So anything that we want to change, we're just really repeating over and over and over something. I think the best advice I can give someone is start paying attention to how you speak to yourself and what you're saying. One of the things that I don't think we realize what we do is we use very dramatic words to say, this is killing me. I'm
oh,
so bad at this. I hate that meeting I have to go to. That boss is, horrible. This traffic's killing me. My kids are driving me nuts. Our body is so in tune, our nervous system, our cells, our body is listening. So, the words we say are curses or blessings. So whatever that means to anyone that's listening, it's just we're very powerful. And so just start paying attention. And what does this have to do with hypnotherapy? We have the power to literally rewire and change. You can rewire and change, I'm going to say, the childhood that you had, because you can change the stories and the meaning that you attach to things. And so by rewiring what you say, your body will react differently. So, for example, I have a client right now who beats herself up because she pushes the snooze button too many times in her mind. And she has convinced herself, I'm just not a morning person. I've never been. I hate mornings, blah, blah, blah. I made her and we got to the root of what that was about. And it was literally about something at school that caused her not want to go when she was young. And we got to the root. I made her an audio recording. Before she even started listening to the audio recording, because that's going to help her rewire, she started waking up before her alarm. And she said she thought that she forgot to set her alarm, but she realized she was waking up every day before the alarm. And then she's like, "Something must be wrong." I'm like, "No, we've already told your mind it's okay." And "No, it's not okay." So she started just pushing snooze because she wanted to change the pattern. But when she started telling her mind, "I love mornings." She actually is like a bodybuilder. She loves going to the gym every morning. But when she started speaking the language, her body was saying, "You actually love mornings." I said, "Just stop telling yourself you hate mornings." So she stopped telling herself. She's like, "I." It took about 4 days. She's in her 50s. So for 40, 50 years, she's hated getting up in the morning. And it probably took about a week. And
Gosh, like talk about breaking a pattern, right? If you
yeah,
think about that, like something that has lasted decades, breaking down in a week, that is phenomenal because her whole trajectory will change. Like something really little like that could have a big impact on your outcomes.
right. And this isn't magic. And the reason I'm just sharing a simple one, and there's certainly more, more maybe more complex, is what are we saying to ourselves? I know I have said many times I'm not a morning person. So just pay attention to the little things that we're saying. Another thing that people can do very quickly, if you're going into a meeting or you're going into a situation, maybe to have a difficult conversation with someone, and say you're nervous or stressed out about it. And it's really hard to get out of, I'm anxious, I'm anxious. And instead of telling you to think about, rainbows and butterflies, it's like, that's not working. I've got a big meeting. I'm pretty stressed about it here. There's a lot at stake. Is think about a moment in the last, say, 3 days, 24 hours, very short period of time, where you felt really confident or calm. And close your eyes. Just, you can be in the car, you can be in the hallway, the bathroom stall. Think about a moment, and it might be petting your dog, opening the door for a nice older woman, and you felt really good. It doesn't have to be big. It's usually with an animal or something really silly. And just think about that moment. Allow that energy to just fill your body very quickly. The thing about a feeling is whatever we have felt, we can feel it before, and we have the power to shift very quickly and allow that body to just, that feeling to blow through you like a breeze, and then allow it to sit there just for like a second, and then think about what you have to go do. And you've shifted your energy so quickly. I promise you, you'll go in and you've just instantly changed how you feel because you've just thought of a different feeling that quickly.
That was beautiful. I did it as you were explaining it, and I felt the shift too. And I was like, oh, that is really practical. So, audience, listeners, give it a whirl. When you're done listening, rewind, come back to it. Because I envision, you mentioned petting my dog, so, or petting a pet or something like that. So I was envisioning having both my Frenchies in my lap and just kind of like when we're winding down for the day, like how calm I feel. And I was able to go into that moment, and I normally come into my podcast, like, pretty calm, but, like, high energy, but I
Yeah.
felt my body, like, ground even more, and I was like, "Oh, that worked."
And the reason is our mind listens to our commands, our words, our commands, and we just don't pay attention to the commands that we're giving it. We just forget the words and the energy that we're commanding. And so we're just so much more powerful than we realize. And our words, our energy, all of it means so much.
You've said so many words that I love, believe, and preach all the time. I'm like, mic drop. Thank you, Christina.
Great. Oh, good,
So
babe,
good.
good,
It's so
good.
good. So what I'd like to move into next, because we have about 5 minutes, is we're really talking about honest self-reflection, getting to the root so we can break patterns. But how can a listener take the context of our conversation today and use it to empower their lives?
They can take it by assessing an area of their life that they want to change, perhaps that they feel either is sabotage or they feel isn't moving fairly. This relationship, I don't feel I'm being treated fairly. And look at it and say, what is it that I would rather have? Okay. So, because it's so often to feel, and I'm going to use the word victim, but the boss, I can't change my boss, or I'm in this relationship and this person speaks down to me. It's easy to say, I can't change that, right? And I've been there too, where it's like, whoa me, I can't change that. And I'm not saying that in a condescending way, but I'm saying it I've been there before and I know what you mean.
Same.
So look at, how do you want it to be? And what can you change? And I want you to write down how you feel. Okay. Really own how you feel. So I use your name, I feel. And then I want you to write, just like when. I really just want you to connect the dots, because I know that you will very instantly notice that you have felt that way before, and assess and connect the dots. Oh my goodness, this is exactly how I felt when I was 13 or when I was 20 or whatnot. Because you're very wise, you're very intuitive, you will very, very quickly, you don't need to pay me or anyone else. Your body knows, and oh my goodness, this is exactly how that coach in high school made me feel. And you're going to connect some dots and you're going to be able to say, that's not me anymore. I want you to look at it and go, that's not me anymore. That's not me anymore. Okay. And I want you to say, that's not me anymore because, and finish this sentence. That's not me anymore because. Okay. Because we have the power to say, that maybe it's as simple as, that's not me anymore because I have a driver's license now. That beats not me anymore because I'm not 5. All right. And it might sound silly. That's not me anymore because I'm independent and I have the power to actually leave this job if I wanted to. I'm choosing now because I need this income to support my family. But in 5 years, I actually have an exit plan and I'm going to change it. And so it just is empowering in some way. We're doing what and you might say, because I know my boss is an idiot and that's how he is to everybody, and I'm not going to take it personal anymore. Whatever your story is,
I love
but
that.
that's not me. Okay.
That was such a wonderful answer. And you packed in so much practical application. I'm like, yes,
Good.
yes, that was great. All right. Well, we're down to wrapping up. Would you please share with the audience how they can stay in touch with you if they're interested in working with you? How would they do that? And turn it over.
Yes. I'd love it. So on Instagram at Christina.L.Woods. And I have a free weekly hypnosis and healing 40-minute thing that I do every week. So go to portal.ChristinaLWoods.com/ the reset room. It's called the reset room. And right in there, you can register and hop in whenever you want. There's replays and it's something I love doing. So hope people can join and be a part of my community.
I love this conversation. It had so many gems in it. And I'm glad we finally got to meet.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay.
If you like today's episode, there are several ways to support the show. As an independent creator, your engagement helps me continue to create it for you. And together, we help create a more regulated and radiant world. First, please rate and review the show on the platform where you listen, and consider sharing this episode with a friend, or maybe 5. That's how it grows, by sharing these ideas. Second, please sign up for my email where I send a short personal note to you every week. You can sign up at beccapowers.com/regulated. As always, thanks for listening, and remember, regulated people get radiant lives. And it's time for you to shine bright. Well, that's a wrap for today. I'll catch you in the next episode. Until then, stay regulated, radiant, and revived.